The grand ballroom glimmered with crystal chandeliers and soft violin music. Laughter echoed across the marble floor as the wealthy guests clinked glasses of champagne, toasting to the perfect couple. Ethan Ward, the billionaire groom, stood in the center of it all, confident, composed, and immaculate in his tailored white tuxedo. Cameras flashed. His new bride, Sabrina, a socialite with diamond smile, looped her arm through his. To everyone watching, it was the wedding of the decade, the union of beauty, money, and prestige. But beneath that polished surface, something inside Ethan felt hollow. He had told himself that he'd moved on, that his past and the woman he left behind no longer mattered, until his gaze drifted toward the far end of the room, where the catering staff quietly moved between tables. And there, bent slightly as she wiped the spill, her uniform a stark contrast to the shimmering gowns, stood her. Ava, his ex-wife, the woman he'd once promised forever, the woman he'd left when his ambition became louder than his heart. For a moment, he thought his mind was playing tricks on him. But no, that face, those trembling hands, that unmistakable air of grace even in humility, it was her. And when she turned, his world tilted. Her belly, visibly round beneath the apron, told a story his heart wasn't ready to hear. Pregnant. Ethan froze. The chatter, the laughter, the music, it all blurred into silence. His breath caught somewhere between disbelief and guilt. How could she be here? Working as a waitress? And why hadn't she told him? The tray in Ava's hands shook as she noticed him. Their eyes locked. Years of love, betrayal, and regret flooded that single glance. She quickly looked away and hurried toward the kitchen, her head low. But Ethan couldn't move on. His mind screamed questions. Was the baby his? Why was she working here? Of all places, his wedding. Sabrina noticed his distraction. "Ethan, honey," she whispered, squeezing his arm. "Is something wrong?" He forced a smile. "Nothing," he lied, though his pulse was hammering. "Just heat." But he couldn't resist. As soon as the first dance began, he slipped away, down the corridor, past the glimmering walls, following the faint sound of clinking dishes and running water. He found her in the staff room, standing alone near a sink, her back to him. Her hands trembled slightly as she scrubbed a plate that was already clean. "Ava," he said quietly. She froze. Slowly she turned. Her eyes met his, calm, tired, guarded. "You shouldn't be here," she whispered. He stepped closer. "Why are you working here? And you're—" Her hand instinctively went to her stomach. "Yes," she said, cutting him off. "I'm pregnant." The silence stretched. He wanted to ask the question burning in his chest. "Is it mine?" But he couldn't form the words. Instead, he said softly, "You didn't tell me." Ava laughed, not with joy, but with bitterness. "You didn't ask. You walked away, Ethan. You signed the papers and never looked back." He winced, guilt slicing through him. I thought you'd moved on, that you wanted—" "What I wanted," she interrupted, her voice trembling, "was a husband who didn't treat love like a business deal." Ethan swallowed hard. The truth of her words hit him harder than he expected. The door creaked open, and one of the waiters poked his head in. "Ava, we need you in the main hall." He paused, seeing Ethan, then quickly left. She turned away. "Please go. I need this job." But Ethan didn't move. "You shouldn't be doing this," he murmured. "Not in your condition." Ava exhaled, finally looking him in the eye. "Ethan, I don't need your pity." He hesitated, torn between pride and something far deeper, something he'd buried long ago. "It's not pity," he said softly. "It's regret." Her lips parted slightly, as if to speak. But before she could, the ballroom doors opened again. Sabrina's voice echoed through the hall, laughing, calling for her husband. Ava's expression hardened. "You should go, Ethan," she said quietly. "Your bride's waiting." Ethan lingered in the doorway, his chest tight. He looked back one last time, at the woman he'd once loved, now standing beneath the dull kitchen lights, strength and sorrow etched across her face. Something inside him whispered that this wasn't the end, that fate had just begun to turn its wheel. He walked out, but his mind stayed with her. and that unborn child who might just carry his name. The music swelled outside as he stepped back into the hall, but he barely heard it. His hands trembled as he lifted a glass of champagne for a toast, his mind replaying every moment, every word she'd said. And from a far corner of the room, Ava watched him, tears glimmering in her eyes, knowing this night would change both their lives forever. But destiny wasn't finished with either of them yet. The night dragged on like a play Ethan couldn't escape. Every smile felt forced, every toast hollow. He could see her even when she wasn't in sight, Ava, moving quietly through the crowd with the other waitresses, keeping her head low, pretending not to exist. But to him, she was everywhere. When the guests cheered for the newlyweds to kiss, Ethan leaned toward Sabrina, pressed a brief, cold kiss to her lips, and whispered an excuse about needing air. He slipped out to the balcony, the chill of the night cutting through the suffocating warmth of the ballroom. Below, the city lights shimmered like broken stars, but they couldn't distract him. All he saw was Ava's trembling hands and that haunting look in her eyes, the one that said, "You left me when I needed you most." He gripped the railing until his knuckles turned white. He had built empires, crushed competitors, bought penthouses and islands, but in that moment, none of it meant anything. He felt small, hollow, lost. Behind him, footsteps clicked softly. "There you are," Sabrina said, her tone light but sharp beneath the surface. "People are asking for you. You disappeared twice already." Ethan straightened, masking his turmoil with a calm smile. "Just needed a break." "It's a lot." Sabrina studied him, her eyes narrowing slightly. "You've been distracted all evening. Is there something you're not telling me?" He hesitated, then shook his head. "Just tired." But Sabrina wasn't convinced. She stepped closer, resting a manicured hand on his chest. "Don't ruin tonight, Ethan. Everything we planned, everything we worked for, it's finally happening." Her voice softened, but there was a flicker of warning beneath it. "Stay focused." He nodded, but his gaze drifted past her, back toward the glass doors where he could see Ava clearing plates from a nearby table. The sight twisted something inside him. He didn't know if it was guilt, longing, or both. When the party finally began to fade and the guests started leaving, Ethan found himself unable to leave the hall. He lingered near the corner, watching as the staff cleaned up. Most of them laughed and chatted quietly. But Ava worked silently, her movements careful, almost mechanical. Every so often she'd wince slightly, pressing a hand against her side, the faintest sign of discomfort. He stepped forward without thinking. "Ava," he said again, his voice low. She froze mid-motion, a glass in her hand. Slowly, she turned toward him. "You shouldn't be here." "I can't just stand by and watch you like this," he said. "You shouldn't be working this late, not in your condition." Her eyes flashed. "I told you before, I need this job. I don't have a luxury to sit and think about what I shouldn't be doing." He took a breath. "You could have called me. I would have—" "Helped me," she interrupted bitterly. "Like you did before? When you decided your image mattered more than your wife. When you left because I didn't fit the life your investors want to see." The words cut deeper than she could know. He'd told himself then it was necessary, that she'd understand someday. But standing there, facing her pain, he realized there was nothing noble about what he'd done. It wasn't ambition. It was cowardice. "Ava," his voice faltered, "I didn't mean to hurt you." Her expression softened for a heartbeat, then hardened again. "Intent doesn't erase the damage, Ethan." She turned to walk away, but his hand shot out, gently gripping her arm. "Please, don't go yet." She stopped, her shoulders tense. "Why?" He looked at her belly, then back into her eyes. "Is it mine?" The question hung in the air like a fragile secret. Ava's breath caught. For a moment, silence swallowed the room. Then, softly, she said, "Does it matter now?" Ethan's heart clenched. "It matters to me." She looked away, blinking fast. "Yes," she whispered finally. "It's yours." He exhaled sharply, the ground seeming to shift beneath him. 1,000 thoughts raced through his head. The nights he'd ignored her calls, the mornings she cried quietly while he rushed off to meetings, the emptiness of their last argument before he slammed the door and never came back. "How long have you been?" 7 months, she said. "And no, I didn't tell you because I didn't think you'd care. You made it clear I wasn't part of your future." He stepped closer. "Ava, that's not true. I was wrong. I was stupid." "Stop," she said sharply. "Don't do this. Not now, not here. You made your choice, Ethan. You're married. Go live your perfect life." He shook his head. "It's not perfect. It's not even real." Ava stared at him, searching his face for the truth. And what she saw there scared her, because it was the same look he'd worn years ago when he first told her he loved her. Before either of them could say more, Sabrina's voice echoed through the hall again. "Ethan, are you in here?" Ava quickly stepped back, turning away. Ethan hesitated, tore between two worlds colliding in front of him. He looked at Ava one last time. "Please don't disappear again," he whispered. "Let me help you." Her eyes glistened, but she said nothing. She simply turned and walked toward the back exit, vanishing into the darkness beyond the kitchen. Moments later, Sabrina entered, her expression shifting from confusion to suspicion. "Who were you talking to?" Ethan forced his voice steady. "No one, just one of the staff." Her lips curved into a cold smile. "I saw you watching that waitress earlier. The one with the belly. You know her, don't you?" Ethan said nothing. Sabrina's smile faded. "Oh my God," she whispered. "It's her, isn't it? The ex-wife." He looked away. That was all the confirmation she needed. Sabrina's voice dropped to a venomous whisper. "You brought me into this fairy tale, while your past still haunts you?" While she's carrying, she stopped herself, breathing hard. "You better fix this, Ethan, before I do." She spun on her heel and stormed out, leaving him alone with the echo of her words. Outside, the night was deep and cold. Ethan ran a hand through his hair, his pulse racing. He couldn't let Ava walk away again. Not this time. He rushed through the back doors, scanning the parking lot. But she was gone. Only the faint rumble of a bus engine echoed down the road. He stood there, lost under the streetlights, wondering how everything he built could crumble so fast. Back inside, the staff continued packing up, oblivious to the storm brewing in his chest. He caught one of the younger waiters, the woman who was working here. "Ava, do you know where she lives?" The waiter hesitated. "Sir, we're not supposed to." Ethan reached into his pocket, pulling out a thick wad of cash. "Please, it's important." The waiter swallowed, then nodded slowly. "She takes the 9 p.m. bus to East Hill. I think she stays somewhere near the old Riverside apartments." Ethan's mind raced. He knew that area. Small, old, not the kind of place someone like Ava should be living. He didn't think twice. He grabbed his coat, ignoring the murmurs of the remaining guests, and headed for the exit. The city lights blurred past as his car sped through the streets, his thoughts tangled in regret and fear. She's pregnant. She's working herself to exhaustion. And I let this happen. Rain began to fall, soft at first, then heavy, streaking the windshield like tears he didn't have the courage to shed. When he finally reached the Riverside apartments, he parked under a flickering street lamp. The building was old, with peeling paint and cracked windows. He hesitated before stepping out, uncertainty gnawing at him. He climbed the stairs slowly, listening to the hum of the rain on the roof. From one of the doors came the faint sound of someone moving, the clatter of dishes, then a soft cough. "Ava." He raised his hand to knock, his heart pounding. But just as his knuckles touched the wood, he heard her voice from inside, tired, trembling, but tender. "Don't worry, little one," she whispered. "Mommy's okay. Mommy's always okay." He closed his eyes, the sound of her words cutting through him like a blade. He stood there for a long moment, rain dripping from his hair, unsure whether he had the right to walk back into her life or the strength to stay away. Ethan stood frozen outside that worn apartment door, her voice still echoing softly through the cracks. Fragile yet fierce, the kind of strength born from breaking and surviving. The rain outside soaked him to the bone, but he barely felt it. Every beat of his heart screamed for him to knock, to say I'm sorry, to promise he'd fix everything he'd shattered. But fear, the same fear that had made him leave her once, clenched his chest. He finally exhaled and knocked twice. Inside, the sound of footsteps. The door opened just enough for her to peek through. Her face was tired, framed by a loose strand of hair, eyes wary. "Ethan?" He nodded, rain dripping from his hair onto the floor. "I needed to see you." She sighed and opened the door wider. "It's late." "I know," he said quietly, stepping inside. The small apartment smelled faintly of lavender and dish soap. The walls were cracked, the furniture mismatched, yet it felt warmer than any penthouse he'd ever owned. On the table sat a half-finished cup of tea beside a folded baby blanket. Ethan's throat tightened as he looked around. "You shouldn't be living like this, Ava." She turned away, her voice calm but sharp. "I'm fine. I have a job, a roof over my head, and soon a child who'll love me. That's more than I can say about before." He flinched. "I deserve that." "Yes," she said simply. "You do." For a long moment, silence stretched between them. The rain outside was relentless, filling the space with its steady rhythm. "I didn't know," Ethan whispered finally. "If I had—" "You would have done what?" she interrupted, meeting his gaze. "Thrown money at the problem? Paid for comfort? You can't buy back what you destroyed, Ethan." He stepped closer, his voice cracking. "I don't want to buy anything. I just want a chance to make it right." Ava shook her head, her expression softening, though her voice remained steady. "You can't rewrite what's already been written." "But maybe," he said, taking another step, "we can start a new chapter." She looked away, her hand resting instinctively on her stomach. "You say that now when it's convenient. But where were you when I begged you to choose us over your empire? When I needed you to just be there?" Ethan's chest tightened with shame. "I was a fool," he admitted. "I thought success would fill the emptiness inside me, but it only made it worse. The truth is, Ava, the moment I saw you tonight, everything I built felt meaningless." Her lips parted slightly, her composure wavering. "Don't say things you don't mean." "I mean every word," he said. "That baby, our baby, is the only thing that feels real anymore. Let me take care of you both. Please." Tears welled in her eyes, though she tried to blink them away. "You think it's that easy? You think a few words erase the pain? I cried every night, Ethan. I begged for you to come back, even when I knew you wouldn't. I lost everything trying to hold on to someone who'd already let go." Ethan swallowed hard, his own eyes stinging. "Then let me hold on this time. I don't expect forgiveness, just a chance to prove I'm not the same man who left you." Ava turned toward the window, the rain casting silver streaks of light across her face. "Do you even love her?" she asked suddenly. "Your new wife?" He hesitated. "No," he admitted. "Not the way I loved you." A bitter laugh escaped her lips. "Then why marry her?" "Because I thought I could bury what I felt. That if I surrounded myself with glamour and people who wanted my money, maybe I'd stop missing the one person who never cared about it." She turned to him, her eyes full of both pain and tenderness. "You don't get to come back just because you regret leaving." He took another step closer, now standing only inches away. "I'm not asking for your heart overnight. Just let me be here. For you, for the baby. I'll do whatever it takes, even if it means standing outside your door every day until you believe me." For a long moment, she stared at him, her breath trembling, and in that silence, a memory flickered of a time when he held her close, whispering promises under the same kind of rain, of laughter and warmth that once felt unbreakable. Finally, she said softly, "Go home, Ethan." He closed his eyes, pain washing over him, but before he could respond, a sharp knock echoed at the door. Ava frowned. "Who?" The door opened before she reached it. Sabrina stood there, soaked from the rain, mascara streaking down her face, fury burning in her eyes. "So it's true," she hissed, her gaze darting between them. "I knew you'd come running to her." Ethan stepped forward. "Sabrina, this isn't—" "Don't you dare," she snapped. "You humiliated me tonight, on our wedding day. Do you have any idea what people will say?" Ava took a small step back, instinctively shielding her stomach. Ethan moved between them, his voice calm but firm. "Sabrina, stop. Whatever this is, It's between me and her. Sabrina's eyes filled with disbelief. Between you and her? She laughed bitterly. You mean the woman you threw away for me? The one now carrying your... Her voice broke. Unbelievable. Ethan looked at her, guilt and weariness in his eyes. You deserve someone who truly loves you. And that isn't me. The room went still. Sabrina stared at him as if he'd struck her. Then, slowly, she nodded, tears spilling freely now. You'll regret this, Ethan, she whispered, and turned to leave, slamming the door behind her. The echo lingered. Rain continued to fall. Ethan stood motionless, the weight of his choices pressing down on him. Ava sat slowly on the couch, her hand still over her stomach, eyes wide with shock. After a moment, Ethan knelt in front of her, voice quiet and raw. I never wanted to hurt anyone. I just lost my way. Ava's eyes shimmered, her voice barely a whisper. And now, he said, I just want to find my way back to you. Tears slipped down her cheeks. You can't fix everything, Ethan. Maybe not, he admitted. But I can start by being here, by not running away this time. She looked at him for a long, silent moment, her heart torn between anger and the love that refused to die. Finally, she whispered, If you mean that, you'll prove it, not with words. With time. He nodded, a flicker of hope in his eyes. I will. The rain outside softened into a gentle drizzle. The city lights glowed through the mist, reflecting off the wet streets like shards of glass. For the first time in years, Ethan felt something real, not success, not pride, but peace. Days turned into weeks. He showed up every day. He drove her to doctor's appointments, cooked dinners, fixed a leaky sink in her tiny kitchen. He never pushed, never demanded forgiveness. He just stayed. And slowly, Ava's walls began to crack. She caught him humming lullabies while painting the nursery walls, saw him fall asleep in a chair beside her when she wasn't feeling well. He was changing, truly changing. One evening, months later, as the sun dipped low and painted the room gold, Ava felt a small kick inside her belly. Ethan was sitting across from her, reading aloud from a baby book. She smiled faintly. Ethan, she said softly. He looked up. She took his hand and placed it gently on her stomach. Feel that? His eyes widened as the tiny movement pressed against his palm. His throat tightened, his eyes wet. She knows you're here, Ava whispered. In that moment, time seemed to stop. The mistakes, the pain, the past. It all faded beneath the quiet miracle of forgiveness taking root. Ethan looked at her, truly looked and whispered, I'll never leave again. Ava didn't answer. She didn't need to. The silence between them said everything. Not of promises, but of possibility. Outside, the rain began again, soft and rhythmic. The same rain that had once symbolized heartbreak now falling like a quiet blessing. And as Ethan held her hand, feeling the heartbeat of the child he never thought he'd have, he realized something profound. Redemption wasn't about erasing the past. It was about choosing every single day to build something better from the pieces left behind. The world outside kept moving, uncaring and endless. But inside that small, humble apartment, two broken souls, once lost in ambition and pain, began quietly and beautifully to age.